Hi, my name's Lucy McRobert and I'm a nature writer and all-round wildlife champion. I believe that a wildlife is a happier, healthier life and we can all benefit from time spent in nature, especially now. That's why last year I published my first book, 365 Days Wild, with William Collins and in partnership with the Wildlife Trusts. It contains 365 random acts of wildness, which are little ways that you can connect with nature no matter where you live, what the weather or what the season. I'm going to read a little bit to you from the introduction, which will explain about my personal journey with wildlife and hopefully inspire you to go and experience nature for yourself. Growing up in rural Leicestershire, I was lucky to experience a wild childhood, scouring every tree, every park, every field and every hedgerow for adventure, running relatively wild and free. As I got older, things changed. That innate love of nature faded, although it never completely disappeared, as I discovered boys, makeup and the shackles of a modern school curriculum. When I was 13, my mum got very ill with cancer. She died 3 years later. As I've grown older, I've realised that I didn't start to grieve properly for years, not until I was at university. I now believe this grieving process was triggered and ultimately overcome by rediscovering my love of nature, a love that I'd forgotten until then. In my 20s, I began to reconnect with nature. I met my now husband, Rob, who was a hardcore birder and twitcher, and inevitably fell down that rabbit hole myself. By the age of 28, I'd seen over 400 species of bird in Britain. The more I immersed myself, the more I learned about the challenges facing our modern environment. I knew I wanted to make a difference. The sense of purpose, plus more time spent outdoors and a love of the natural world, and an increasing knowledge of it, helped to bring about the peace of mind that I had lacked since losing my mum. Now, a handful of years later, my whole life revolves around nature. I have fallen in love with new landscapes, the Highlands and Islands of Scotland, the Isles of Scilly, the Somerset Levels, North Norfolk. And my wildlife has become even more exciting, with a little new traveller to share adventures with. I wrote this book whilst I was pregnant, and in September 2018, Rob and I welcomed Georgiana Tian Lambert into our lives. Georgie already has a very wild life of her own, visiting Kent to see a beluga whale in the Thames at just 1 week old, exploring the Isles of Scilly by land, air and sea a month, and watching birds and wildlife every day. She has enriched our wild experiences and our lives. But what is a random act of wildness? A random act of wildness is any little thing that you can do as part of an average day that allows you to experience, learn about, or even help nature near you. It can take a few seconds, like taking a moment to smell a wildflower on the way to work, or a few hours, like creating a whole area for wildlife in your garden. Some random acts of wildness don't have to take any time at all, but instead are all about making little changes to your daily routine that will ultimately better for wildlife. For example, buying a reusable coffee cup or using products that are better for the environment. To help you, I've pulled together my top 365 random acts of wildness, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't get creative and make up your own too. The best random acts of wildness immerse you, if only for a few seconds, in nature, setting all of your senses alight. Smelling freshly fallen rain, tasting the sweet explosion of a fresh blackberry as you pop it in your mouth, wriggling your toes in the icy waters of a stream, or waking up to birdsong. When it comes to letting the wild into your life, a little will go a long way. That's why random acts of wildness are perfect. They're quick and simple to do, and when put together they add up to a big change for nature and for you. We all instinctively know it. Spending time outdoors is good for us. After all, we're part of nature, so it makes sense that getting your daily wildlife fix will do you the world of good. There's lots of science that underpins this now too. Spending time in nature makes us happier and healthier. Just like eating a balanced diet and exercising helps our minds and bodies, wildlife and wild places help us get active, encourage us to be more social, improve our confidence and creativity, and help us cope with stressful life events. Nature can even help people recover from illnesses, cope with grief and loss like myself, and even help people to manage mental health problems like anxiety, stress and depression. In many ways, it's the ultimate medicine, and it's free. There's no excuse for not getting the whole family involved too. Nature is great for all ages and can have the biggest impact on the young and the elderly, so take everyone you can find on this wild adventure with you. I'd love to answer any questions that you've got, and remember, now more than ever, we really need nature in our lives, so go outside and discover your own wildlife today.